Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Authors Vox. Today, I am joined by F.S. Autumn, the author of Lady of the Grave, an excellent book about witches, bards, and all around magic. Autumn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm FS Autumn, and I write books.
Okay. Okay. All right. Quick and to the point. Okay. Okay. So, Autumn, I always ask the same question for everyone who's on the pod for the first time, and that's yourself. And you have written a book about witches, so you know about magic systems. But what is your favorite magic system? And that can be from books, TV, your own, if you would like. I don't really mind. But what would you say your favorite one is?
Yeah, okay, so growing up, it was definitely the 10th Kingdom. It's very niche. It's about a maid and there's a portal, and she goes into this world with her dad, who is like a neglectful dad, kind of, and
Okay.
they experience like classic fairy tale type stuff, and it's mixed with, like, modern stuff. So, that was, like, my intro into, like, that kind of magic system with portals and stuff, which I really like. And then I read after college, I kind of got back into reading for fun, and Carissa Hardcastle released a book called Leaves May Fall, and it has
Mike, I'm still listening. My camera's just turned off for some strange reason. Don't worry. You can
okay,
keep going.
should I keep going?
Oh boy, hang on. Yeah,
Okay.
everything will be fine. Everything will be fine.
Okay, I'll keep going. So, Carissa Hardcastle, Leaves May Fall is the title. It's a duology, and it's again portal magic. So, going into the world through a portal, I'm drawn to that kind of stuff. I know Rachel Gillig's One Dark Window with the prophecy cards is one of my favorite books, and
Hmm.
then Freerin has
Like
one of my
Freerin
favorite.
Beyond Journey's End, like the anime?
Yeah,
Oh, I love that. I love that show. It's such a
yeah,
I think it's fantastic. I've
yeah,
never heard of the 10th Kingdom.
yeah. It's old,
Yeah, well,
but like
fair.
yeah, there's, like, the big bad wolf, and he is very charismatic and, like, the love interest.
Hmm,
So,
okay. All right. I have a friend who would be really into that. I'm also definitely gonna check that out because I like Brothers Grimm fairy tales, so that sounds fun. Um
yeah, yeah.
Okay, except for the small technical error there, let's just hope that doesn't happen again, but let's dive right in. So, you said you were into, a certain book after college, but let's talk instead about how long you've been writing. So how long, has FS Autumn been, growing this art form, for herself?
Yeah, so I've been writing all my life. I think my first published work was in, like, 5th grade, a poem, like, about a hippo or something got into a book. But my start with, publicly sharing my writing as an adult, I have bipolar disorder. And I had a manic episode, and I decided to start a Patreon for short stories. So,
Oh,
basically what happened was I saw this really interesting news article about, a skeleton they found that was buried with a scythe over its throat because they thought it was vampire. And I was like, "That would make, like, a cool short story." So I wrote one, I shared one, and then every month, my Patreons would vote on an obscure news article, and I would write a story about it. And I got to,
oh,
like,
cool.
genre hop a lot, which was fun, and play around with, like, points of view, and that kind of helped me find my writing style a little bit. And then, yeah, it's all kind of manic episodes can do that kind of thing for bipolar people. I know a lot of bipolar people who have started businesses during a manic episode, so that's kind of like where it started.
Fair enough. Um, that's a really interesting, writing exercise, asking people to vote and then creating something is, I would say, a testament to your ability to turn, certain topics into these fantastical stories, which I would say is part of the reason why Lady of the Grave works so well.
Yeah.
And just on the back here, it's, death by faith and fantasies, which I think is
Yeah.
a funny a funny
Yeah.
segue, from that particular section, but, um, was there we talk about the next question is usually, like, what is a moment that pushed you into writing, but what was there something specific that pushed you to write Lady of the Grave? Was it another, like, Patreon thing where someone voted and it just kind of, like, you kinda
No.
expanded on it?
So Lady of the Grave, I was writing the whole time I was doing my Patreon. I did Patreon for 2 years, so 24 short stories.
Wow.
And
Wow, a
yeah,
lot of short stories.
yeah.
Hmm.
And, so I was writing Lady of the Grave all through that. It kind of so the initial thought I had was, "What if I started a cult?" And
Okay.
that was, like, the first thought. And
Okay.
yeah, so it kind of developed from there, and I am a big time plotter. So I had every beat figured out, like, I just, like it just kind of happened. I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, it was just something that was in me and needed to come out, I think, before I could write something more lighthearted.
Fair. Which I is funny because I'm pretty sure I've been following the Instagram account, and I believe your next story is about like a Scooby Doo esque mystery, which is a
Yeah,
far departure from what I
yeah.
would say this is about. So that's
Yeah, it's
cool.
still dark like my usual stuff, but it's much more lighthearted than Lady of the Grave.
Fair enough. Totally fair. So it is a rather so Lady of the Grave is a rather tragic novel, and Octavia um really suffers. Like,
Mhm.
that's I feel like that can be a generalization that I can make is that she suffers throughout.
Yes.
It's a core
Yeah.
concept. Did you when you're writing the novel, did you find you were having trouble finding a balance between good and bad things? Was there, like, a part where you're like, "I feel like too many bad things are happening, I gotta throw her a bone." Like, was there anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's very like typical of my writing style, is to have a lot of extreme ups and downs all throughout the novel instead of just one big one. So my like thought process for Lady of the Grave, and without giving too much away, um, my goal was with the dark parts that they made sense for the situation. Like I didn't want to do things just for shock factor.
Mhm.
I really wanted these bad things to be realistic in a fantasy setting,
Fair.
but yeah.
I th well, you did a great job because
Thank
they
you.
did feel realistic, and I kept thinking like,
Yeah.
"God, she is just having a bad go of it this whole time."
Yeah, I
Um
think it's necessary for her to deconstruct. She had to
Mhm.
experience a lot of that stuff because when you grow up in a cult-like scenario and you only know one thing and then you experience new things, it's gonna be a shock on top of anything else that happens. So she's already in a state of shock on top of the other things that are happening.
Yeah.
So I think that lends to, like, some more depth there.
Uh, I'm really glad you brought that up, because my next question is about Malik. Malik? Malik? How do you say it? Is it
Malik.
Malik? Malik?
Mhm.
Okay. She Octavia definitely suffers from what could be considered Stockholm syndrome. Like, Malik is a master manipulator, and he shows
Mhm.
that throughout the whole book. Even, when he's interacting with other members of the cult,
Mhm.
or of the coven, sorry. So when creating the personality of this antagonist, this is obviously something that would probably stick with anybody. But was there any specific research you did into manipulation tactics that would, make the hold he had over her seem realistic?
Yeah, I did a lot of cult research. I did a lot of reading. I watched a bunch of cult documentaries. And I kind of like have some personal experience with cult things, like especially isolation and love bombing.
Hmm.
So I can kind of draw from like that. And I wasn't in a cult like Octavia, like it was very, very like minor, but, like, I think that my subconscious needed to, like, work through some things there, And,
Fair.
I didn't even know I was in a cult until I was writing Lady of the Grave, and I was researching these things, and I was like, "Oh, dang," like, I experienced isolation, love bombing, like, manipulative tactics, so it was easier for me to write, but yeah, the if you, like, get into cult research, it is just wild, and I really, really wanted Malik to be a narcissist, like, straight up
Mhm.
narcissist, because I think a lot of times that term's used, like, loosely to, like, explain away bad behavior, but this is like he's mentally ill. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say, like, of the characters in the novel, I don't usually get very visceral rea visceral reactions from characters. Sometimes I do. There are some characters that show up, but this guy, every time he spoke, I'm like, "Shut up, man. Just stop.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
suck. You are the worst person on this page."
Yeah, one of the things
He
I got a lot from readers was like, "We want more Malik, he's horrible," and I'm like, "We have enough of him."
Yeah. I was like, "What can we do to get this guy to stop talking? Like, what
Yeah.
what would someone just punch
Mhm.
him in the face?"
Yeah.
And just to not to switch gears too quickly here, but on an interesting thing I was thinking about, the Coven itself, um, you've managed to kind of I don't even know how to say this. The core concept of the title Lady of the Grave suggests that she has more power than she actually does in this coven. It's
Mhm.
very clear that Malik has used her as like a figurehead.
Yeah.
Um, was there when you're writing this particular kind of concept and when you're writing a figurehead, were you finding it hard to balance that a little bit? Like, oh, she's definitely got power, but not really? Or
Yeah.
was the focus more on Malik just maintaining his control throughout when you were writing?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, it was like, when I first started writing, it was about Malik wanting all the power and all the control, like, that's his goal is to control and have power over everything, including Goddessborn, which is like,
Mhm.
good luck with that, buddy. But,
Yeah, yeah.
Octavia is harder because she grows up thinking that her power is bad, like, evil, like,
Mhm,
she's the worst, and, like, for her whole life, she thought her power was for this one thing, to protect her coven, that's it.
mhm,
And then, when she breaks free from that and she's like, "Oh, I can use my power for different things," it is a coming into your own power story. She definitely she goes through it, but, like, she
mhm.
learns to embrace her power and not be afraid of it and to be okay with that's how she is, and yeah.
Fair yeah, that's, it the progression and I don't wanna say too much to give it away for
I
people who
know,
haven't
it's
read it yet.
hard.
Yeah, that's the hardest part I find about doing these where I'm just like, I don't know what to say. I'm just speaking in vague anecdotes.
Yes.
I will say, like, the progression of Octavia throughout the book was something that I really, enjoyed watching because it is very much in that vein of, like, coming into her own.
Okay.
Um, which is a common thing in high fantasy and is
Mhm.
my terrible way of segueing into this question that has nothing to do with the previous question. But at one point you mention in the book, as I was reading through the book, this was the one question I knew I had to ask right away. I was like, that's definitely going in there. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned that there's high fantasy in the series, in the book.
Mhm.
As this has already got magic and portals and witches,
Yeah.
what could possibly be classified as high fantasy? Like, you have I believe it was called the Almond Grove Chronicles are once
Yes.
talked about, but,
Yes,
like,
Callan's
what would
favorite series.
what would high fantasy
Mhm.
look like in a world which is already fantastical?
Yeah, right, it's a little weird, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was like,
Um,
"Huh, okay."
yeah, yeah, so I honestly think it would be a lot of the same, like, you would get different languages, maps,
Mm,
strategy, epic battles, but, like, I don't know, maybe like, portal magic, because there's not
yeah.
portal magic in the world, it would have to be a different, object-based magic or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, and
Um,
Callan would definitely enjoy high fantasy because he is a very structured person, and high fantasy is very structured. You have to have structure for high fantasy, and he is a
mhm.
creature of habit, and he just would definitely, like I can just picture him, like, reading for hours.
Yeah, yeah. He especially with high fantasy, because they were like, "Oh, this book is 1,200 pages." I was like, "That's a high fantasy. That right
Y
there, that is the
yeah.
only thing you had to say." Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, up until this point, we've talked a little bit about how, Octavia's, um, situation and, like, the idea of, like, manipulation of the cult is a
Mhm.
little bit similar, but Octavia also mentions that books are her escape. It's very clear from the outset what with,
Yeah.
one of the things being her alcove and books, and then the desire to go to the library.
Mhm.
In short, like, was this a personal anecdote that you applied to the character? Like, are books what you would consider your escape in that sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I think for a lot of fantasy readers, par like, in particular, it is an escape because
Uh-huh.
contemporary is real world, you're still in the real world, but with
Uh-huh.
fantasy, you can leave that behind, which I think nowadays is, like, necessary at sometimes.
Agreed.
Um, yeah, so I think especially for her when you're bas essentially trapped in your own culture, in your own community, you don't have
Mhm.
any other community or culture or anything to go to, I think that's her way of experiencing things outside of her situation.
That's a very good point that, if I'm being completely honest, I hadn't considered and probably
Yeah.
should have when reading that. I was like, "Okay, that makes sense."
Yeah.
On this topic of all these characters, like, Malik being the ultimate evil, and,
Yeah.
Octavia getting away from them, we haven't talked about, one of the core characters, the bard, who's is it Throwin?
Yep, throw in.
Throwin, okay. I
Yeah.
was, like, muttering it to myself the entire time I was reading, I was like, "I hope I got that name right."
Yeah, it's throw in. So that name came from we were watching The Great Pottery Throwdown, and they
Okay.
were, like, talking of
Alright.
yeah, so they said, like, an old technique was throwing, like, you
Yeah.
throwing, and I was like, "That's it."
You're like, "Boom," right there.
I just
You're
liked
like,
the sound yeah, it just
"Where's the
fit.
pen?"
It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, that I was not expecting that as an answer.
Yeah, nobody really not many people know his name origin, so there you go.
Perfect. Now people will.
Yeah.
So my question for him, he's a bard, and
Mhm.
that's like, bards and music go hand in hand
Mhm.
because of fantasy forever. Um,
Yeah.
and I will say that one of the greatest aspects of his character are the songs, and you've included them on the page. And now,
Yeah.
Tolkien historically wrote all of the songs, which, for good or bad, for Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Um, and a large portion of this novel includes the ones that Throwan has worked, and it's a focal point, in fact, to the plot. Did you write these songs, or did you have someone else who wrote them, or
Yeah, I wrote them. Um, I wrote them. So, when I wrote Throwing Songs, I didn't have music in my head, it was more of, like, beat poetry in my head that I was hearing,
fair?
but my husband is very musical, he can play guitar, drums, and sing.
Okay.
So, I would send over my songs to him, I'd be like, "Look at this. Does it, like,
Yeah.
follow" like, I knew basic song structure, I researched basic, like, A, B, A, B, things
Mhm.
like that. So, I kind of worked off that, and then I would send it to him, and he would edit it in a way that flowed more, for, like, a musician. But yeah, it was a lot of fun writing songs, and I find that I kind of do that in my writing sometimes, add in songs, that I write, and I don't know why. It just kind of happens naturally when I write. But yeah, his songs were, like, my favorite, like, I really enjoyed writing his songs, and I knew as soon as I came up with this idea, I knew he was gonna be a bard because he needed to be Octavia's opposite. and a
Uh-huh.
bard personality, just his natural, like he's a very strong ego, just like every bard, and, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, introvert versus extrovert kinda thing for
Yep.
sure. He is a big personality. I think that's
Yes.
why he's very likable, which is good.
Mhm. Everybody loves
Um,
him.
yeah, I think I thought he was there was some parts where I was, like, actually laughing fairly hard at things he was doing and, like,
Yeah.
how he would approach certain aspects. Um, they're very good. Are there alternates, though? Like, were there ones that you wrote that came back or you're like, these are not as good? Or were there
Yeah.
ones that got cut?
Yeah, there were some that got cut, and then a lot of them aren't complete songs. So, like, Phoenix's song, which is one of my favorites, only
Mhm.
really has 2 verses because you never hear him perform the whole song, you just get snippets of him doing it. So a lot of the songs are just, like, 1 verse, but you know it's a song, but, like, I never wrote the whole thing.
Fair.
Yeah, there's
Totally
only
fair.
2 there's 3 3 complete songs in the series in the novel, sorry, standalone.
Y yes, yeah, the standalone. The I'm glad you brought up Fenix because we talked about Fenix, we talked about Kalen,
Callan,
and Callan, thank you,
yeah.
and, and Throwan, and they are, definition found family siblings, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, they all have distinct personalities.
Mhm.
Fenix is, personally, I think Fenix was one of my favorites.
Everybody
Uh,
loves him, yes.
yeah,
Everybody asks for, like, a novella of him, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Nah."
Ec Echo, also
Yeah,
very,
they're
very good,
awesome. Yeah.
and obviously, Callan,
Mhm.
so great. I think when he brought up the high fantasy, I was like, "Okay, this guy and we get along."
Yeah.
Were there a lot of was there a lot of design alterations on them from start to finish, or did they kind of already have their, like, full character breakdown
Yeah.
ready, and you just had to apply like, the dialogue and everything?
Yeah, so, initially, they were created because I needed them to fulfill a role. Um, their whole thing is trying to help the entirety of Thaldia,
Mhm.
and I needed like, Throwin was the assassin, and he can do the things assassins need to do.
Yep.
And, I needed a character that would be like a delegate, which is
Mhm.
where Echo came in because they can, like, adapt to any culture, they can just go and fit in, and I needed a character that was, like, very bold but well-spoken, so that's kinda how that came about, and then we needed some muscle, which is Callan.
Mhm.
So they were created to fulfill very specific roles so that their found family could work together in their mission to make Feldia a better place. And then I got to kind of have fun with them and be like, this is how their personalities are and how they fit. And yeah, I just really wanted a character that was like super like emotionally constipated, like Callan, and
Oh.
then yeah, yeah. Echo, who is just, like, the life of the party and you wanna party with
Mhm.
them and have more time with them. I'm sorry that they didn't get more page time. But yeah, yeah, yeah. They were fun to write, but also it gets a little emotional when I wrote them, yes.
Yes, yes, very much so, I can understand that completely. I think they all have such defined personalities, which is nice because sometimes I find when you read um, certain books where there is an ensemble cast, they start to sort of morph into one
Yeah,
person, which is not the case with this, which is great.
yeah.
Um, and I didn't mention, Winnie. What Winnie? Is it Winnie?
Winnie. Yep.
Winnie, yes. I kept reading it as whiny. I was like, "I know that cannot be the
Yeah, it's
pronunciation."
Winnie.
Yeah, okay. Winnie being kinda like the matriarch
Mhm,
or more specifically, like, the older sister role, has also got a massive part to play, and
mm,
I think her character and certain things that happen later in the
Yeah.
novel, um, really lent to that authenticity that you've created with
Mhm.
these individual characters.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part was not overwriting because I wanted to spend so much time with each of them, but I really had to
Mhm.
pare it down to the most important dialogue, the most important actions. So I cut a lot of side character stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it would have
Oh.
been huge. It would have been like Priory of the Orange Tree
Yeah.
size.
Okay, yeah. Fair,
Yeah.
very fair. You're coming up with a Way of Kings or something. You're like, "There you go, guys.
And it's my
Enjoy."
debut, so, like,
Yeah.
people are reluctant to take a chance on this thick book. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
At 5 yeah, I will say at 500, was it almost 500 exactly, right?
It's like
500 and
501. Yeah.
501 505, I believe is my count here.
Yeah.
507. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I will say it is on the thicker end of independent
Mhm.
novels I've read so far, but I would have to say that if it was longer, I still probably would have got through. Specifically if it had more side characters, I'd be like, "Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll keep going."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we talked so far about a lot of the characters, but I do want to talk for a second about the world building because
Yeah.
in a fantasy, world building is so important. And
Mhm.
you have there's actually a list at the beginning of the book, which I really appreciated, as well as map. Who doesn't love a map?
My cover artist made that map.
I It's very detailed, which is awesome
Yeah,
because
I
I
drew it, and then I was like, "Make this better."
yeah, totally. Go ahead.
Yeah, my initial map actually had a trail of where they go,
Oh, okay.
so
Hmm. I personally, I'm so bad at visualizing distance in my head that
Mhm.
things like this are so good. And this is also why I thought this was so important is that you have the list of all the covens as well.
Yes.
Because I forget. I'm a very forgetful person. But I think it's such an excellent inclusion into the world as they do kind of define regions and powers
Mhm.
so that they help the reader kind of grasp a clear picture of
The
the world at large. And when you are planning something like this, when you have a map that's as expansive as this and so bordered, how did you decide what each coven would look like? Like in terms of world building, like I believe I don't remember exactly which one it was, but one of them is very clearly um like voodoo, like I got a really
Yeah,
strong
that's,
bayou feel.
which one is that? Volksong.
Yes. Yeah, 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 that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
How did you
definitely,
decide
like,
that?
Cajun inspired, kind of.
Mhm,
So for the world building, I knew right away that I wanted them to travel through different terrains because Octavia needed to experience terrains other than what she grew up with her whole life. So,
mhm.
like, she's never been to, like, a jungly area or
Yeah.
anything like that. So, like, I really wanted her to experience these things and help her see that the world is not as bad as she was taught. Like, there's beauty everywhere. There's
Yeah.
darkness too, but, like, beauty too. So definitely it was the terrains at first, and then from that point, I kind of dug into different types of societies, and I wanted, just like our world, there's, like, let me think. Luftor, is very academic, very wealthy, but there is still poverty there. They just don't
Mhm.
focus on it. And things like that. Just like I really wanted her to experience different cultures, and see like this is the opposite of what I was taught. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed building the world. The worst part was
Hmm.
figuring out how much distance a horse could do. Sorry, it's, like, storming out here.
That's okay.
Thunderstorming, but yeah, the horse distance stuff, like, I had, like,
Mhm.
a full I was like, "How many days would how long would it take them to get from this coven to that coven?" And that was really, really challenging. Yeah.
I mean, I think if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't super paying attention to, like, the amount of days. I wasn't gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Well,
Yeah.
hang on now. A normal Welsh pony can only travel this far."
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
was I'm not that kind of person, but I thought it was I love the definition. I'm sorry, one of my neighbors has this really old truck, and he's been revving the engine for 10
It's
minutes, and
like
it's been distracting me.
storming like crazy
Yeah.
out here.
Just both of us have weird, auditory things going on right now. I would say, like, the definition of each of the regions was so interesting to me, and I thought that was such a nice addition, especially and obviously, as I just mentioned, the one voodoo-based one really
Yeah.
stuck out to me, but, um, it's it's nice to see world building like that like, a complete sense, like, you have thought out, everything
Yeah, I'm a
in that way.
plotter.
Yeah. Speaking of plots,
Yeah.
the ending of the book, and I'm not gonna say anything, but the epilogue kinda makes it seem a little bit, it's both final and not final. Are you planning on following up the book at all, or are you just gonna
No.
No? Fair enough.
So, here's the thing. So, a lot of people want more and they're like, "Well, you could just do like a novella." Like a lot of people really want an Echo and Phoenix novella because their dynamic
Mhm,
is really fun.
mhm,
But I knew going into this book that this would be it, and I like to give my readers credit. Most readers are creative people, even if they don't know it. And when you read my ending, specifically the epilogue, um, it's meant for you to like decide how you want it to go. Like, you know my characters, you know my world.
mhm.
You can come up with your own thing. I personally know exactly what happens, but that's
Okay.
something, yeah, that's something for me. I've told, like, 3 of my friends who are like, "You have to tell me." And I was
Mhm,
like, "Okay." But, yeah, I really like and I like books like that because, life is not something that gets wrapped up in a nice bow at the end. Like, there's always unfinished
mhm.
business, there's always just unknowns, and I kind of wanted my book to have that at the end.
Have the unknown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I love an ending. I'm a big fan of absolute endings, but yeah, that
Yeah,
totally makes
yeah.
sense. It is nice to know that there is an ending, whether we know that or not, that you
Yeah.
have something. Um, so the book is, as I said, is wonderful. I do want to talk about something else for a second here, and that is a mutual acquaintance of ours. Well, an acquaintance of mine. I don't know how your personal relationship with this person,
Yeah.
but Giles, who
Mhm.
was just on a few days ago. You mentioned them in the acknowledgments of this book. I believe I asked them about it when they were on, and they
Yeah.
mentioned that there's like a group of indie authors who like help each other with things, which is very nice to know that that is a very welcoming community. Do you find that the community is welcoming to new authors, and would you have any advice to any new authors wanting to get involved?
Yeah, so it is, for the most part, a very welcoming community. We don't gatekeep. Like, we like to just give you whatever you need. Like, at least with my group, we're active on Discord. So I'm talking to them like every day.
Mm.
So they're like my closest friends or other authors. And my day job is creating bookish merch and formatting for indie authors. So I'm literally in the world all day and all night.
Wow.
And
Okay. Cool.
I have never once been, like, perturbed or upset when someone reaches out to me with a question. Like, I know a
Hmm.
lot of people are scared to approach people who are, like, published, but, like, really, for the most part, like, especially indie authors who don't have, like, these massive followings with, like, stuff going on all the time, like, I'll see your message and I'll answer it in a timely
Hmm.
manner, and
Yeah.
I think for, like, my advice to writers is to finish your first draft. Find someone who will hold you accountable, who will encourage you, but, like, if you don't get that first draft done, you're never gonna publish. You have to, and it's gonna be messy, and you're gonna hate it, and you're gonna have plot holes and things like that, but, like, you have to get that first draft done. So, I think community is a great way to, like, get that done.
Fair. Yeah, holding people accountable or making sure they do what they do is
Yeah, and
definitely,
we do in our group, we're
helpful.
like, "Hey, what are you working on? How's it going?" Like
"Have you written anything today?" Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, that's great. Uh, I I did read that question wrong and have actually gotten you to answer a second question
Yes.
within that question, so this is good. I do have one final, formal question for you before we move on to our,
Yes.
like, speed round. As I mentioned many, many times, I am an English teacher in Canada.
Yes.
And regardless of what country, North America as a whole is going through a huge literacy crisis, where people don't know how to read or write or think critically about anything. But let's say you're standing in front of a high school English class or a university English class, whatever, or college English class, whatever. And you've been asked to give one good reason as to why students should read and write more. What would you say?
Yeah, I made the mistake of watching Giles and Hollies, and their answers were so good for this question, so I'm gonna, like, take a little bit of a different approach. My answer would be, that reading is essential to fully broaden your empathy towards others. It gives you the ability to put yourself literally in someone else's shoes, into a
Really?
character's point of view. Like, you're in their point of view, you can understand and connect with a character that is nothing like you, and you can see a different point of view, and also, like, specifically for students who are confined to a certain cultural bubble or social bubble, it helps you experience things outside of that. And I think writing specifically has given me the ability to reach out to people who are much different than myself, which I would never have done before I started writing. It's given me, a lot of perspective. I was a very judgmental person as a young adult. I was super judgmental and my bubble was very closed off. And I have met so many great people through reading and writing that I never would have met if I didn't read or write.
Uh, can I just say, first and foremost, that was a fantastic answer.
Thank you.
Secondly, Holly has an unfair advantage because she's also an English teacher, so
Yeah,
she's
she
speaking from
nailed
a
it.
position of knowledge. Yeah, she knows what she's talking about, okay?
Yeah,
So I would say though that it we don't talk enough about how reading allows you to view other viewpoints. Nobody says that. Everyone's like, "Well, it gives you, knowledge and things." Yes, it does, but it also builds empathy. So it's,
yeah,
to your credit that you mentioned that because very few people do.
yeah.
Um Okay, that was the end of the formal questions, and now you said you watched, Holly and Giles, so you know this is coming. It's the 10
Yes, I'm
rapid
ready.
fire questions. I am gonna do my best to, get through them because I've written them down and they seem to have faded, but that's okay. So,
Okay,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Paper and pen or computers to write?
Computer,
Microsoft Word or Google Docs?
docs,
Card game or board games?
board games for the art,
That's a good answer. Movies or TV?
TV,
Live action or animated?
anime.
Uh, True crime or cold cases?
Ooh, cold cases.
That's a good one. Japanese, animation or North American animation?
North American,
Supernatural horror or slasher horror?
supernatural,
Coffee or tea?
water,
Good choice. And finally, long novels or short novels?
long.
Also a good choice. Okay, that was fantastic. So, everyone, that was FS Autumn. Her book, Lady of the Grave, is out in many places. You can get it. I think I got mine off of the American Amazon, strangely enough, but you could get it in more places that are definitely more beneficial to authors. Um, Autumn, is there anything you'd like to promote or plug before we say goodbye here?
Yeah, we already talked about it, but my next book comes out September 12th. It's Scooby-Doo inspired, but for adults, it's a little bit dark, it's a little bit sexy, yeah,
Okay, fair.
it's a lot of fun, it still has dark elements, but it's much shorter than Lady of the Grave, it's bite-sized, so
I, for one, cannot wait. I love Scooby Doo style stuff. I like mysteries just in general.
Yeah, yeah.
Phenomenal. In that case, thank you so much for being on here. I can't wait to read the next one. And I hope we get to collaborate again in the future,
Yeah, definitely.
potentially on that one. Yeah, check out Autumn's Instagram as well. Turn Down for Smut, I believe, is the name
Yes.
for it, which made my partner laugh out loud when she saw that message come through.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, everyone have a good day and stay magical, everybody.